All right, guys, so today we are going to be continuing our carbon unit and we're going to be focusing on our first macromolecule, which happens to be carbohydrates. I'm sure carbohydrates is a word that's very familiar to you from specifically your diet and maybe even health classes that you've taken in middle school. All right, so hopefully you've already completed this jogger. We're having our quiz on water on Friday. All right, and that's going to be all of our notes from last week on this. This Mad Minute will hopefully help you out. It's something that I want you to take home, and you should know the main points from it, okay? But let's move on. So macromolecules, this is exactly where we're picking up from where we left off last time, right? And I'm sure you guys are wiggling in your seats because you already know all these answers, right? Macromolecule, right? We know that that means large molecules, right? It's these monomers that fuse together, right? These individual puzzle pieces, if you will, that fuse together to make the puzzle, which happens to be a polymer. Okay? And a way you can think about this, right, is individual monomers, they fuse together. These make polymers. And many polymers make up a macromolecule. Okay? This is pretty much the basic dynamic that you guys should understand, is that you have monomers, which then become polymers, which then, right, many of these are what's considered to be a macromolecule. Okay? So, as we just said, right, our monomers are individual units, whereas polymers are many monomers that are bound together. And we know that the process of going from a monomer to a polymer, right, is very simple. It's polymerization. Right. Polymerization. Okay? And please remember, if this is going too fast for you, you can always pause and rewind this video at any time. So up here, again, we have our individual monomers, which undergo this polymerization and are able to become this one big polymer. Okay, so the four main types of macromolecules we're going to focus on today, we are learning about carbohydrates. Our next class will be learning about lipids. The class after that will be proteins. Now, you know carbohydrates from your diet, right? You know lipids. Lipids are actually fats. Okay, so you know that from your diet. And you should know proteins, right? That's meat. So these are all things our body needs to eat, right, in order to be alive. We need these resources in our body: carbs, fats, proteins. The other thing that you probably don't know about, it's actually called nucleic acids. And we get these nucleic acids from a variety of things, and this is what actually makes up DNA. Okay? So those are our main macromolecules. So going into today's lessons about carbohydrates, the most important thing that you guys should know about carbohydrates is that they are sugars. Okay? At the very basis, all carbohydrates are sugars. Okay? Which means that they're used by our bodies as energy. Okay? Examples of carbs, right? Think of things that give you energy, right? Bread, pasta. I put milk here. Milk is something you wouldn't think about, but milk, it has sugar. And anything with sugar has a carbohydrate component, okay? And then the last thing, of course, right? Again, I don't think you would think of it offhand, but it's candy. There's a whole bunch more. And many more, right? But these are just a few very basic examples that I thought you guys would be familiar with, okay? And just so you know, when we look at the food pyramid, it's way, 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 way down here in the bottom, right? These are our carbohydrates. Grains, cereals, you see bread, cookies, anything that's sugaring gives you energy. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of it before, but before anybody really does like a strenuous exercise, they call it carbo loading, where before like a marathon or something, people would eat tons of pasta or tons of bread to give them the energy that they need throughout their race. The sugar that we're really most interested in is the sugar called glucose. And the reason that we're so interested in this is because it's what's produced by plants in photosynthesis. Okay, think of glucose as the simplest sugar. Right, and again, it's produced by plants in photosynthesis. So this is how plants get energy. Right, plants can't eat. They don't have mouths. So they have to undergo photosynthesis to produce the glucose that we eat. And that's why we eat plants, right? We don't undergo photosynthesis where we just make glucose. We have to eat these plants that actually produce the glucose, right? Okay, cool. So, a little more about carbohydrates. The molecules that carbs are made up of, it's actually very, very similar to when we were just talking about carbon. They're made up of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Now they can have other molecules attached, but at the very core, you need at least these three. Okay? Okay. At least those three. All right. Great. So there are two main types of carbohydrates. Okay. And they're known as simple sugars and complex sugars. So I'm sure as you guys, right, these are very common words. Simple meaning usually just one thing, very straightforward, and complex meaning many things, right? One thing. And this meaning many things. Okay. I now want us to quickly think about what a monomer is, right? Well, the way that we discussed monomers is a monomer is, right? It's a small individual subunit, right? Whereas we've defined a polymer as a larger complex subunit. I think that just from these definitions, you guys should be able to see that simple sugars are basically going to be monomers, right? Whereas our complex sugars are going to be polymers. Okay, and this is something that we really define well up here, right? Simple sugars are monomers, as we just drew the arrow to, right? And they are called monosaccharides. Okay, where mono means one, okay? Which is where we get the simple part from. This means that they are one sugar molecule. Cool. And what I'm showing you guys right here is a glucose molecule, okay? It is one molecule because there is only one ring. This is what we define as carbohydrate molecules. One ring equals one molecule, right? So if you saw two rings, that would not be able to be a simple sugar, right? Because that's not one molecule, all right? That would be our complex sugars, right? These are, again, as we had just written on our left, right? These are polymers. And we call these, so aproposly, they're called polysaccharides. You guys should be noticing that there is a familiarity between if something is simple and it has mono in front of it, or if it's more complex and has poly, whether it's monomer, polymer, or if it's monosaccharide and polysaccharide. Okay? And so these are multiple sugar molecules fused together, right? More than one. Okay? And that's what we're looking at down in this photo. If you notice, we have 1, 2, 3. We have 4 rings of starch there, right? 4 rings of glucose, which make up a starch molecule. Okay? And so please make sure that you're able to note the difference between this and that, okay? This being one molecule, glucose, and starch being many glucose molecules linked together, right? The 1, 2, 3, 4 molecules. Okay, so we're going to do a quick check. So we have to figure out, are the following monosaccharides or polysaccharides? And this is the way I want you to set it up every time, right? I might not actually give you this whole part here. I might just give you the photo, but I want you to have ingrained in you that this is what you do. Okay, so how many rings do you count here? All right, well, I count 1 ring. Is there more than one? No, based on my answer above, right? And because I said no, I will circle right here, right? It's a monosaccharide. It's not a polysaccharide, okay? So let's do this next one together the best we can. So I want you guys to answer really quickly. Write down on your papers, how many rings do you see? I count 1 ring, 2 rings. Okay, more than one. Yes, there is, right? We just said there was 2. So that means we go down to this one because we said yes, so it's a polysaccharide. Okay? And then I want you guys to be able to do this last one on your own. Again, how many rings are there? Is there more than one? And then circle the answer on the bottom. And this is the way I want you guys to be able to set it up. The first question you should always ask is how many rings? And then your next question, is there more than one? If yes, polysaccharide. If no, monosaccharide. Really simple, I think. And then lastly, once you guys have finished this U2 question right here, if you go back to your Google Classroom page in the same announcement as this PDF video, I want you guys to actually go click this YouTube link and watch it from the 4-minute to the 7-minute mark. It's really useful. It's the same funny guy that gave us the carbon video that we watched in class earlier this week, and I think it's something you really like. And then super duper lastly, you guys know that this here is all for you. Again, you should know the definitions for all of these words. Okay, these will be on a quiz that you get, and they will definitely be on your exam, which is coming up. It's either going to be October 19th to 20th. So we're looking at about 2 weeks until your exam. So if you haven't started filling these out on all of your PowerPoints, I would advise that you start doing it soon. All right, well, I'm proud to say that I shaved off some time from our last lecture. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. And please, again, if you have any questions, you know my phone number and my email. All right? Thanks so much, and enjoy your carbs.